Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is your fifth and final Royal Ascot preview, day 5, Saturday of Royal Ascot. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm joined yet again by oddschecker's very own tipster, Andy Holding, and racing broadcaster and journalist, Johnny Ward, as well. It is hot. It is Friday morning. Johnny, I don't know what it's like over with you, and I don't know, I think actually maybe where you are, Andy, it's not quite as warm, but I'm in London. It's 10 past 10. I've just been to the post office and I needed a shower when I came home. It is going to be scorching for those who are at Royal Ascot today. I've seen that they've relaxed the dress code, but only after the Royal Parade as well. So you've got to keep your top hat on until the Royal family come through the parade ring, and then you're allowed to shed your layers. I must say I'm not too envious of those who are going to be there today. I think it's a day to be watching it on the sofa. But Andy, we better talk about how you've got on so far this week. We've seen 3 of the 5 days at Royal Ascot come and go. Fair to say, the crossbar has been rattled a few times for both yourself and your followers.
Yeah, it's been one of those frustrating weeks where, by and large, everything has run really well. I haven't got too many complaints with hard luck stories other than Maljum. I mean, Maljum was probably the big unlucky hard luck story of the week.
What was that again, Andy?
Yeah, I know. I'm going to keep mentioning that, I think, for quite a while. Wallbank yesterday went very close in the Norfolk. Deauville Legend as well. I mean, he looked like winning for me in the King George when everyone said he couldn't win from stall 3, so he's run above himself. A lot of placed horses, Chief for Chief, Snazzy Jazzy, big prices.
Snazzy Jazzy. I mean, I bet Snazzy Jazzy off the back of your words on the show for day 3, 6 places, and it comes 7th. Kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Of course it would, George. Yeah, of course it would. Yeah, you didn't get the 7 places. Wallbank yesterday went very close in the Norfolk. Deauville Legend as well. I mean, he looked like winning for me in the King George when everyone said he couldn't win from stall 3, so he's run above himself. A lot of placed horses, Chief for Chief, Snazzy Jazzy, big prices.
Snazzy Jazzy. I mean, I bet Snazzy Jazzy off the back of your words on the show for day 3, 6 places, and it comes 7th. Kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Of course it would, George. Yeah, of course it would. Yeah, you didn't get the 7 places. It's been one of those weeks with regards just not having the volume of winners, but finishing ahead and making a profit through most races through the each way side of the bet. But there's a good 2 days to go. Friday, as we speak, looks like strong, and Saturday, I mean some of those big field straight track races. I mean, I cannot believe there's 27 in the Platinum Jubilee. I mean, that's unheard of. Almost I didn't realise there was 27 group horses over 6 furlongs in training, but they've all turned up. I don't think anything missing. So, that'll take some finding.
Yeah, we're going to go through the racing on Saturday in just a second. But before we move on from the racing we've seen so far, we should talk about the Norfolk because, a lot of your followers, a lot of people who listen or watch this show would have been backing Wallbank for the last couple of weeks. Wallbank did finish second, looked for a second, I think touched 2-1 on the exchanges in the stewards room. After Paul Hannigan riding the big price winner over 100 Betfair starting price, came right across the track and chopped up the, basically it was dangerous riding rather than interference. Johnny, what did you make of it? Do you think this is in terms of the issue itself? I saw Hugh Taylor tweeting that it hasn't been since 2009 that a rider was and a horse was disqualified for dangerous riding in this country. Are our stewards not doing a good enough job to protect the jockeys in these kind of races when you're seeing quite blatant disregard for the other jockeys from one man in particular?
No, I don't think they are. And I've always been of the belief that the general British and Irish kind of MO in relation to honouring the result of the race in terms of what they consider to be the best horse on the day, I think in general that's fairly sound. I owned a horse who was thrown out of winning the Cork National. I owned a leg of a horse who was thrown out to win the Cork National years ago for interference at the second last. And as much as I felt it was harsh on the day, he won by a short head. And in hindsight, I thought it was the right decision. But if you have a situation where you give a rider a 10-day ban, yet he does it pretty safe in the knowledge that he's still going to have his winner at Royal Ascot, and he's halfway through this maneuver, he knows already he's going to get a serious ban for this, but he's already thinking, I'll get away with it. It's a winner of Royal Ascot. I think there's something really inherently wrong with that. And as we spoke about pre-show, it's there's no kind of right answer here, I think, in terms of who wins that race. Does Wallbank get the race? Does the third get the race? But, I think the safest call here is to disqualify the winner, basically full stop. Because if a rider rides like that with relative impunity, forget about a result here. We're talking about getting thrown out of a car on rattling fast ground at 40 miles an hour or whatever it is, potentially because of dangerous riding. And I think something may come out of this, because I think there was so much of a furore out of it on TV and on social media. I think they may look at it. I know the BHA issued a statement. And as I said, I think in general, trying to honour the horse who finished first is fine. But jockeys dictate incidents like this rather than horses. And if jockeys clearly... So to finish up, if a horse drifts and the jockey's doing everything he can to correct it, I think you look at it differently. But an incident like this, I don't think it sits well at all that you get a 10-day ban and hold on to the race.
Andy, this won't be pocket talk speaking, because as we've kind of mentioned there, I know you had a couple of others in the race as well. Crispy Cat, certainly another one getting unfortunate, but was part of the issue here that if it had been thrown out, Wallbank, the horse that did finish second, probably wouldn't have been the likely winner had the dangerous riding not occurred itself.
I think that's what probably influenced the stewards more than anything else. They probably almost had too many decisions to make. Where do you put Brave Nation? How badly was he interfered? Do you put him ahead of Wallbank? Do you
it becomes a hypothetical race, doesn't it?
It becomes a hypothetical race, doesn't it? And I just think they just basically chucked it all in under the carpet and just said, well, we'll leave it stand. We'll ban the jockey. But there was many other complications, too much fine print really to go through. But I think going forward, I think this race has set a precedent really for how races, I think, should be judged in future. I think there will be a moving of the goalposts and a change of the rule, very much like we have in football with a handball in the penalty box. Some instances they say, like in football, using as an analogy, that that would be a foul in the penalty box, it's a penalty, but if it's outside the box, it isn't. It's very similar with horse racing, really. And going back to Johnny's incident with his Cork National horse, I mean, if that mistake, I can't remember the race in question, but if that mistake had occurred at the first fence, let's say, stewards wouldn't have had a look at it. And yet, just because it's at the second last, what difference does it make? If it's a mistake and it costs your horse ground, then it should be all for one and one for all. Not because it happened at the last, happened at the second last, we're going to make a big deal of it. If it happens anywhere on the track, a mistake. But I just think horses jumping into each other, and that's just part of national hunt racing. So that, I think the rules are wrong there. I mean, it was similar with the anniversary hurdle at Cheltenham, at Aintree this year, with Pied Piper and the Milton Harris horse. I mean, just because that happened at the last, they made a big thing of it. But if it happened at the first, I wouldn't have looked at it. I think some of the rules need tweaking here, there, and everywhere to make it fairer.
Hopefully that'll be the last time we talk of controversy at Royal Ascot this year. But it's time to get into our preview of the Saturday, the final day of Royal Ascot 2022. Before we do, just going to ask you or tell you or encourage you to download the oddschecker app for the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and the best place terms. Crucially, over Royal Ascot, some firms going as big as 8 places, I think, today in today's racing on Friday. And also, of course, Andy's tips and plenty of other tipsters as well. So do download the oddschecker app now. But we'll get into Saturday's racing, starting with the Chesham. This is a race I know that Andy is very keen to dip his toe into, or maybe his whole foot. Alfred Munnings is the 5-6 favourite. Al Zahir 8-1, Crypto Force 11-1, Faisal Road 12-1, Dark 30-16s, Legend of Xanadu 18-1, Finn's Charm 18s, One World 20s, 22-1 bar those. So 14 runners here. We saw Little Big Bear, a horse for Aidan O'Brien, backed in from 5-2 into 11-10 on the day, and justify that market support. In this 2-year-old race, we've got another very short price, far shorter, in Alfred Munnings here, Andy. Is this a vulnerable favourite?
I certainly think so, based on the time figures that we've got him doing so far. He's only had the one run. It was very impressive on the eye. Everyone's gone, wow, this horse is a potential champion, etc., etc. But then when you actually crunch down in the numbers and look what he did on that day at Leopardstown, it wasn't anything special. He should have won like the way he did, really. If he's that good, he's bound to be quickening away from inferior opposition. I've looked at the horses that ran in behind. Yes, we've had a winner. The horse that finished fourth, I think it was, the Donegal O'Brien horse, went to Roscommon and won next time out, albeit at a strain, but then got absolutely
Joseph
battered.
O'Brien, yeah,
Joseph O'Brien, so I beg your pardon.
Donegall's second horse, I think, was well regarded, all right, on the day.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think the second or third has got well beat since, and the aforementioned horse who finished fourth has got beat last night by a Kevin Coleman horse. So what he actually beat, greatest respect, was absolute bobbins.
So I don't know if does that sentence make sense? With the greatest respect, absolute bobbins.
Yeah, it doesn't add up to anything. I think any horse in this field worth their salt would have won in the way he did. That's all I'm saying. But everyone's gone on mad about it because it's Owen O'Brien and, oh yeah, that's his Chesham horse, blah blah blah. He's going to have to improve significantly on that, certainly to justify odds-on favouritism. There's no way I'd go anywhere near him odds-on. If you offered me 2-1, I wouldn't back him, because I do think this race has got a lot of quality all the way through. I mean, there's so much untapped potential in here. Then we don't know which horse is going to improve the most for stepping up in trip. We've got Dark 30, who himself won a slowly run race at Newbury, but at least that race has worked out well with the second, third, and fourth winning, and there look some good horses in behind him that day. So if you're comparing sort of time figures and slowly run races, I think Dark 30's race was a lot better than the Leopardstown race that Alfred Munnings won. And then you've got horses that have run time figures, such as Legends of Xanadu, who's proven that he can handle a hurly-burly of a strong run race, as he did in the Woodcut. And he's by 60s Icon as well, so he's plenty of stamina. And then Finn's Charm as well, I love him. He did a big number when he won at Musselburgh the day, stepped up markedly on his first run. The Johnsons have got a good record in this race. You chuck in the likes Falzo Road, Crypto Force, One World. You know, the list is endless. I mean, you're a brave man if you think this is an odds-on poke. I really do. I think this is the worst value favourite the whole meeting. Look, he might well win and prove me wrong, and he might improve massively, and I'm made to look a fool, but I'm going to stick my neck out with this one and just say he's ranked bad value, and I think there's good value to be had everywhere and elsewhere. So I'd probably go with Finn's Charm and Legend of Xanadu. They're the two numbers horses, and I also think that they'll improve for this kind of race. So they'll do for me at the prices.
Finn's Charm 18-1, Legend of Xanadu also 18-1, both with Hills and Bet Victor as well. And I guess that's the key, Andy. Is we're talking about prices here. You're not sitting here telling us that Alfred Munnings won't win, but just at 5 to 6, he might go and win by 2 lengths at 5 to 6, but doesn't mean that it was those backing him at 5 to 6 have played the race right. I would still argue that those who are backing Little Big Bear at 11 to 10 and it goes and wins by a head or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got the value, and it's not necessarily the way to play the race. But Johnny, yeah, Andy.
So I'm just making everyone who's listening to this aware that he hasn't done anything to justify that price at this very moment in time. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to almost protect you from going with the hype and going in with both barrels. There'd be better 8 to 11 chances up and down the length and breadth of the year that have actually run a number, that have done something that warrants them being that price. I mean, I could pick a million horses out of even money that are miles clear on the time figure and think, well, that's run a number that if it's only got to back that up and it'll win again. Whereas this fella's way off of it.
Johnny, you gonna stick up for the Irish Raider, or are you gonna?
No, I mean, I think that's why Andy's brilliant. I think, you've a straightforward choice here after, listening to Andy. You just lay the horse or obviously back something else, because it is based on his record in the Chesham. I love this race because of the kind of restrictions in it, that the stallion has to have won over a certain distance. So it rules out a lot of horses, and it's made for particular horses. Aiden has a very good record in the race, and I think that's totally factored into the price. The race was mentioned straight after Leopardstown. I do know the horse of Donegall's was well touted on the day, but I mean, if you look at Crypto Force, interesting enough story. Michael O'Callaghan bought him at the Breeze Ups for 160,000 guineas. That was in April, so he kind of put his neck on the line because he's by time test. He's he's obviously an unproven stallion, but he liked him a lot. He obviously clocked a very good time at the breeze ups, and then when he went and ran his maiden, I think traditionally it's a very hot Curragh maiden. He was still sent off like 40-1 or something like that because there was so much chat about principally the second in the race. It was an incredible pedigree, a Ballydoyle horse, Deep Impact out of Rhododendron, I think, her first. No, I'm sure Andy remembers the race as well. Ryan Moore didn't have a good day. It was a little bit like his ride in Newfoundland yesterday, albeit in a much smaller field. He just went up the rail and met trouble. But I think Crypto Force would have won anyway. And what encourages me is we had Michael Callan on the radio a couple of weeks ago, and I was guessing that the horse who was at the sales on Monday, I was guessing that he'd make about 800 grand, but he made 900 anyway. So the owner is now hoping to get a quick return. But I think what's interesting that Michael's 2-year-olds have run really well this week. Obviously Andy's Tale of Woe in the Norfolk we've heard of, but like Michael's horse could possibly have won that race. His 2-year-old early in the week had a lot on its plate and ran very well. And he's really bullish about this horse. He effectively said to me, whatever beats it'll win. I love this run at the Curragh. I think it was probably the moral winner anyway. Took a little bit of time to get going, looked quite green, but very, very strong at the finish. And it's 11-1. Was every bit as impressive to me as Alfred Munnings. One is 8-11 and the other is 11-1. So I'd be very happy to back Crypto Force, particularly because his horse have run so well this week, the 2-year-olds.
Crypto Force 11-1 with William Hill, 888 Sport and Bet Victor as well. So 3 there to take on the favourite with Finn's Charm, Legend of Xanadu and Crypto Force, the one for Johnny. Move on then to the Jersey, where we've got Noble Truth is the 9-2 favourite ahead of Star Girls Al Mal at 8-1, Monadar 8-1, Samburu 8-1, 8-1, Alflaila as well. Johnny, we'll come to you first here for the Jersey.
Yeah, I did the race post analysis of the race at Goran that Star Girls Al Mal won, and I sort of thought she'd run at the Curragh in the Guineas as she did. I wasn't expecting her to be quite as well back because she looked like she'd plenty on her plate, but it was a bit of an old-fashioned gamble in the Guineas. And really, you were very unlucky if you didn't cop the each way because she met traffic. She kind of ran out of gas at the end after making a run probably that was a little bit harder on her because of the trouble she met, and obviously Homeless Songs bolted up, but she was basically as good as anything else in the race, including Tuesday, who won the Oak subsequently. She drops back to 7 here. She's still unexposed. The way she won on the all-weather, I don't think she'll mind fast ground. I'm going to put up one other as well, though. I thought just the prices, just looking at the home horses, Dubai Poet for me is interesting. He ran behind Star of India at Chester and watched the race back. Like, he clearly didn't stay. It was over an extended, it was a Derby trial. He clearly didn't stay. You go back to his 2-year-old form when he was behind Kerberos at Newmarket when in the back end race ran very well. He's dropped back to 7 furlongs here. I imagine this is going to be strongly run. No problem with the ground. He's 33-1 and he's rated 104, which definitely puts him there for place purposes. And I think if you take away his last run at Chester, I mean, he's surely not that sort of a price. He's one disappointing run really last year was on soft ground. So I imagine this would be grand for him. He's 33-1. I just think that's very big. So I'm going to put up him and Henry de Bromhead's filly as Henry looks for his first Royal Ascot winner.
Dubai Poet there, a massive price, 33-1, and Star Girls Amal for Henry de Bromhead 8-1. That 33s with a couple of firms, Paddy's, Betfair Sportsbook, Bet Victor, Betfred and Boyle Sports as it stands at the moment, 15 run. So most firms 4 places, but Hills and Sky Bet both 5. Andy?
Yeah, I've got a really strong pick in this race. I actually don't think this is the hottest jersey I've ever seen. I think we've got a lot of sort of listed Group 3 horses at best. So I don't think there's a huge amount between top to bottom here. So there is a bit of value to be had. But the one I really like here was Alflaila, the Owen Burrows horse. The only course and distance winner in the field. In fact, I think this is the only course winner at the field. So that's a massive, massive advantage. We've seen this week at Ascot. So many horses that have already previously been here have come out and proven that experience over the straight track is worth its weight in gold. And I absolutely love the way he won here early on in the season. It was the race that Saga was favourite in. And everyone wondered why Saga had run so badly, having run well against Maljoom the time before. I'll tell you the reason why Saga ran so badly. He tried to make the run in. Everything that's tried to make the run in here on the straight track this week, by and large, has got absolutely battered as predicted. Even Wellbank yesterday, I couldn't believe it was in front after a furlong. I was like, banging my head on the desk. You just can't make all the running here.
I have to say, I did think of you for a good half of that race, I was thinking, what is Andy Holding thinking here?
Yeah,
I know.
I know. I wish I could send a message to David Loughnane and Russell Ryan and say, whatever you do, cover this horse up and don't make the running. But yeah, they went and did exactly what you didn't want them to do. And that's the reason why Saga ran so badly, because we saw yesterday the Saga that turned up in the Britannia is a very good horse. So the fact that Alflaila at least has got a huge victory over Saga on his dance card is testament to how good he is anyway. But he came through off a strong pace that day, and that's what I like. The fact that he was held up, cruised through, finished his race off strongly, hit the line really well. Suggests to me that he's improved immeasurably since last year. And if you read the post-race comments as well from Owen Burrows, he said he's matured over the winter. He's a totally different horse to the one he was last year. He's less buzzy, less sort of coltish. And he's settling down into be a proper racehorse. He's drawn nicely as well. Having what we've seen of the last 2 days in particular, middle to far side is where the jockeys want to be migrated. So stall 5 is absolutely ideal for a hold-up horse who can be delivered in that position where a lot of horses have challenged and ended up winning. I think this is just tailor-made for Alflaila. And don't forget, he's got some good form against horses like the Guineas winner and St James's Palace winner, Caribus. I think he brings a hell of a lot to the table. He's 8-1. And I think Owen Burrows is going to have a really good day because he's got Minzal in the Platinum Jubilee, which I'll talk about shortly. But this one, I think, will get him off to a good start.
Just on him, if you're backing him, you should definitely back Dubai Pole because he was behind him as a 2-year-old. And the variants were like this Dubai Pole, he's a really good looking horse. So I presume he's going to mature into a 3-year-old. So I definitely have a saver because he's like 33s and he actually bet him behind Kerber. So this could be shaping up to a nice little race.
Both drawn though as well. Johnny's horse is drawn too. So I don't see that as it stands at the moment, unless it changes dramatically on Friday, as a bad thing.
Yeah, so entwining form lines there for Alflaila at 8-1 and Dubai Poet at 33s. On to then the 340, the Hardwicke, where Hurricane Lane is the 4-5 favourite ahead of Broome at 11-2, Solid Stone 8-1, Third Realm 9-1, Mostadaf 10-1, 20-1, Lafayette, Living Legend 33s, 50-1 away he goes. Andy, dead 8 runners, odds on favourite. Let's go.
Guaranteed to be a non-runner. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Absolutely guaranteed. It wouldn't surprise me if Nolmead took out Lafayette because he definitely wants a little bit of juice in the ground. He's probably already over, but he might walk the track like Alan King and withdraw it because there's no rain forecast for tomorrow. Certainly London anyway. Not till late on in the day. There is rain in the UK, but I don't think London's going to get it till very, very late. So I think we'll see something, unfortunately, go awry for the each way backers. But if all 8 miraculously did go to post, then Broome is the obvious one for me. I know he's second favourite. That's sort of stating the flaming obvious, but he was a good second in this race last year. And I very much think that Aidan O'Brien's had this race as the number 1 target or ever since then, really. And he's run in the Group 1 at the Curragh last time out was very eye-catching, to say the very least.
Form is working out all right as well.
Well, yeah, it's not too shabby, is it? The front 3 or 4 were absolutely turning it on big style in that race. That was a properly run race. High Definition made sure it was a good gallop. Alan Kerr's a world-class horse. So is Lord North. We know State of Rest is very handy. And this fella was just in behind them, tootling along, just staying on nicely without being overly punished. He never really went for him, Shamey. It was just a typical having your first run, blow away the cobwebs, exercise.
Just to say, it was Wayne Lord that rode him, but
sorry, beg your pardon.
just to defend the great man.
I just in my head thought it was Shamey.
It looked like Shamey.
Yeah, it could have. Well, it was. Are you Shamey in disguise? Kind of thing. But yeah, Ryan's on. He likes Ascot. He won't mind the ground. So yeah, Broome is the proper thieving man's each way bet in this race.
11-2 with Paddy Power, Betfair Sportsbook, and William Hill. As we say, 8 runners as it stands. But of course, if you do take that 11-2, bit of each way thievery, and one does come out, you're going to be left with a quarter of the 2 places if 7 or fewer do go.
I think some firms will still go 3 places, even if there's one out. You'll have to shop around.
I think so.
Yeah, I think
even
so,
with
yeah.
because I mean, even
if I were doing the spread on the non-runners here, I'd probably have it at more than 1, because even if you look at Third Realm after he won the last day, Andrea Zane says this horse would handle it bottomless, and he's pretty much totally improving on good firm. Then you've Noel Mead's horse, so I think that's a big factor in this race, because even the favourite, he's coming back. Obviously, you have to forgive him his layoff. Why haven't we seen him since Longchamp? But his form is on, effectively his best form is on at least good ground. So it's a bit of a concern. Like Charlie Appleby's had a decent week, obviously. But I'd be with Andy on this. I'd be with Broome. I'm not a mad fan of the horse, to be honest. But it was clear the last year was a means to an end. Like, I'd love to own a horse where you can basically give him a prep race in a Group 1. I mean, but that is the levels he's at. Like, just let him tootle away, let him come home in 5th, and let Wayne Lorden do a Shamey Heffernan impression. But he'll have no problem with the ground. He's solid, but like this, it's not going to be an each-rate TV race, I think, because I think there'll definitely be at least one non-runner in this.
At least one non-runner, so do beware. Maybe wait until just before the off to if you're having your each trade bet. Although I have a feeling if 8 do go down there might not be any 11 and 2 about Broome come the show. But 11 to 2 best price it is at the moment, both for Johnny and for Andy. The one to side with is Broome. On then to the 420, the Platinum Jubilee, as we heard earlier, 27 in at the moment. Home Affairs is the 2-1 favourite. Seems eye-wateringly short in a race like this, but Creative Force 9-1, Campanelli 10-1, of course a Royal Ascot winner in the past. Artorias 12-1, Highfield Princess 14, Sacred 14s, Minzal 16-1, A Case of You 18-1, Alcohol Free 25-1, Happy Romance 25s as well. Great Ambassador, A Sea of Blue 28-1 best price, but as short as 18s elsewhere. Andy.
Yeah, just a mind-bogglingly difficult but brilliant race in equal measures. Probably the race of the week almost, with regards class, depth, intrigue, obviously because of the Australian horse, and you know there is some great value to be had because, as you say, that Home Affairs takes a ridiculously huge chunk out of the market. I don't really know the horse that well. Obviously, I've watched his videos back. I'm only going on sort of supposition here, but
beaten a short head by Nature Strip over 5 furlongs back in February.
Everyone's looking at this and seeing what Nature Strip has done, and it's putting 2-2 together. Thinking, well, if he's done this against Nature Strip, then this has got to happen surely. But I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as that, because Nature Strip was obviously running over his optimum distance of 5 furlongs. This is going to be a totally different ball game for this horse. 6 furlongs probably not so good, and he's never run on a straight track over 6 furlongs as demanding as this. Plus the fact, is he drawn that well in stall 17? The only time will tell whether that's where you need to be anyway. But given that he's likely to be ridden prominently or even make the run in, as his run style suggests, I think he could be, sticking his chin out. I think he might have a glass chin in the latter stages here. He wouldn't be for me at that price. Again, he wouldn't be for me at any price, to be perfectly honest. He wouldn't care for me if someone went 4-1. I just wouldn't back him. He's just not the kind of horse I'm interested in. There's loads and loads of horses who've got brilliant track form in this field that are much better value. And I do think the Duke of York form has to be taken very seriously, because the time figure that we got Highfield Princess clocking that day was absolutely sensational. It was almost like, what on earth are they doing to this horse at home? I mean, I actually texted Sean Quinn afterwards, and that they almost were of the same belief. They're like, she's just like improving out of all recognition. They've always felt that she's very good, as she's proven before, but she's taken her game to an even higher level. And let's not forget, she ran really well from a bad draw on the ground that she didn't like towards the back end of last season against the very best sprinters over course and distance. But she's liable to have better ground, which she likes. She's a Royal Ascot winner and she stays well. She's nicely drawn. I think she's massively underestimated and always has been in the market. There's always been a little bit of a stigma attached to her, as if like, oh, we don't really believe this. And she keeps coming back time and time again and doing it. But the fact that she's done it here at Ascot has got to be worth its weight. And I do like Minzal as well. I put him up that day at York. Owen Burrows said that he might need the run, and it was plain as day to me that watching that race back, he blew up. You could tell he took a right heave at the furlong pole, and in the end, he just couldn't quite go with the winner. Obviously, he knocked out some amazing fractions. But he beat Highfield Princess in that aforementioned race at Ascot last season. And I think he's a much better horse than he was then. And he's also got a very nice draw. Chuck into the likes, Great Ambassador as a horse I've earmarked for this race. and put up as one of my horses to follow, i.e. 12 to follow early on in the season. I think he's got to be a factor. The only thing that puts me off with him is draw 26. I think if he was drawn middle to far side, I might include him. I might just chuck a few quid at him just for the hell of it anyway and have 3 bets. But my strategy is definitely going to play those 2 out of the Duke of York. They've both got brilliant Ascot track form over 6. They're drawn well. The ground's right for them. And they're just way, way overpriced. So Highfield Princess and Minzal are my 2, and I'm massively against Home Affairs.
Highfield Princess 14-1, Minzal 16-1. As it stands at the moment, a few firms going 6 places. Johnny, a couple of strong ones there from Andy.
Yeah, I love the way racing, like there's always a link to kind of the past that you can recollect. And I was trying to think, my first memory of this race was Schwazer winning this for the Aussies, and that's nearly 20 years ago now, which is kind of hard to believe, and was following up having won the 5 furlong race earlier in the week. And then I noticed that Schwazer is actually the sire of Choose Me, who's the dam of Creative Force, and Choose Me has produced Persuasive, Creative Force, and 3 other winners. She's been an incredible dam, but this horse for me is very solid because he was lame at Maidan the last year and he was sent off 9-2, and I just looked at that race in Maidan. It was a Group 1. It didn't look any worse than this anyway in terms of the depth in the race. Obviously Case Few won the race, who's reopposing here, but if you take away that run, this horse stays so well, and he loves Ascot, and if he bounces back to form, I think he's going to run a big rrace, because this is going to be so fast run. If the Aussie horse lasted out, fair enough. The last horse to make the run in this race was, I looked up, Lethal Force 2013. Everyone has failed since. Everyone who's tried to make the run has failed. So you're nearly 10 years of failures of trying to make the run in the race. So I think the Appleby horse is really solid each way. Presume he's over what happened in the Maidan, and it's going to be, stamina is going to be key here. This horse might possibly want 7 furlongs ideally, but I think he's rock solid. Can't wait for the race, to be honest. I think it's going to be, as Andy said, it's amazing, the field size, and you have a horse who's, and even also just say the Aussie horse, what happens if he's taken on up front? I mean, there's a lot of imponderables here at the price. His price is entirely based on that, well, what we saw earlier in the week and that collateral form. I think he's well worth taking on.
Creative Force 9-1, best price. Hills, Bet Victor, Coral, Betfred, and a couple of others as well. So a few to take on the Australian. I'd said a second ago that ran behind Nature Strip. That was wrong. Beat Nature Strip by a short head, but looking at it now, I mean, Nature Strip seemed to miss the kick, and as we say, over 5 furlongs as well, just didn't quite get home. So it might be overbet there after what we saw Nature Strip do back on Tuesday. Feels like a lifetime ago Tuesday. On to the Wokingham now, the 5 o'clock on Saturday. Johnny, will come to you here first. 31 in the Wokingham, nearly getting double-figure prices. The field Fresh is the 9-1 joint favourite with Black Rod and Quarantine Dreams. Silver Samurai 12-1, First Folio 16-1, Jumbie 16-1. Rohan, the horse last season that I think one handicap of about 55 before climbing the ladder. An absolute sea of blue today, 16-1 bet price. But that's massive standout with Bet365, 10-1, 11-1 basically market price. Tabdeeb 18-1, 20-1 bar those. Johnny, unbelievably open affair this as ever.
It's unbelievably open, but not surprisingly, it looks like kind of almost like a golf tournament in terms of the each way terms available. You're getting 8 places with one firm. So my only caveat for backing Fresh is that obviously he's favourite. He's not exactly missed by the bookmakers, but he is so solid. If you're backing this horse each way, I really can't see how he's not at least in the frame. His Ascot form is 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this race last year, which admittedly was run on soft ground, he was given an extremely confident ride. He kind of drifted slightly into the centre of the track, beat everything else comfortably except the winner, and he's ground versatile. I think possibly 7 furlongs is a little bit far for him last time, but he's drawn 7. He was drawn 9 last year. I can almost envisage exactly what he's going to do. He's probably going to come up slightly short because he is a 9-1 chance, but I think he's going to run a blinder. And if you're getting your each way places, I think he might be a pound or two higher than last year. James Fancher's had 2 runners this week. One of them was third at 22-1, so that's encouraging. I think Daniel Tullup's going to ride this horse with a lot of confidence. There's going to obviously be a lot of pace on. I can't see how he's out of the frame.
Yeah, 8 places Sky Bet, and Fresh is 15-2 with Sky Bet as well. So you're making probably half a point or so profit if you do back him each way, and finishes just in the frame. 888 Sport best price 9-1, 6 places they are as well. Andy.
Yeah, couldn't agree anymore with what Johnny's has said about Fresh. I think he's the first name you put down on your play spot slip. just because of that amazing Ascot record. He's a horse that I've bitten for loads and loads of times. I put him in last year's race and he ran really well. What turned out a bad draw. Again, he ran really well in the Spring Cup behind Vaffortino. Again, I put him up that day. He's just a horse that I think because of his place record, you're always going to get a huge run for your money. So he's a confident pick, thinking, well, I'll put this up each way at 10, 12 to 1 and, we're going to get a run and we're going to win money off of him, whatever happens. I think he's a good bet in the place markets. If you're just looking to make profit out of the race, if you can bet in 4, 5, 6 places, I think you'll return on that bet because he is drawn in the right place. He travels well. He gets himself into a position where he's always looking as though he's going to win a furlong out. But will he get the job done, or will there be something in it, as Johnny said, that might just pick his pocket again? If there is one at a slightly bigger price that I do think has been a little bit overlooked here, it's Archie Watson's horse, Tab Deed, who comes out really well on the numbers that we've got, plus the fact that he likes it here at Ascot, and he's got the absolutely archetypal run style. I talk about run styles here at Ascot a lot until I'm blue in the face, really, but you have to be on horses that are held up out the back. Obviously, there are some of them hostage to fortune, like Chief of Chiefs was yesterday, but it means that when they're dying and that's literally on their hands and knees in the latter stage at the front, the finishers will just pick them off. Virtually every win on the straight track has done that this week, and this fella has to be held up like he was last time at Haydock. Hollydore rode him really chilly out the back, and he came through. Got a bit unlucky in the run, but his run beyond Razel in the listed race over 5 suggests to me that he's bang on. He ran well beyond Run to Freedom the time before, gave him a good time, and his 2 runs here have both been exceptionally good as well in the Group 3 and when he won here back in 2018. So he's got plenty of previous. The yard's in great form, Holly's in great form, and the draw in stall 14 couldn't be any better because he can edge towards that middle to far side. So big chance Tab Deed along with Fresh. Those would be my 2 against the field.
Tab Deed 18 to 1 with Coral best price 12 to 1 around elsewhere as well, so you might have to shop around to get your best price there. And Fresh, a double selection for the 2 guys as well, 9 to 1 best price, 15 to 2 if you want to take the 8 place terms. Onto the Golden Gate Stakes, George Bowie versus Godolphin, otherwise known. Mr. Cut is the 7 to 2 favourite with 3 Godolphin horses next up in the market. Falling Shadow is 13 to 2, Honiton 8 to 1. Aldous Huxley 11 to 1, then Sun King 12 to 1, Phantom Flight 12s, Chairman 14s, Groundbreaker 16s, Blue Trail 16 to 1, Knightswood 18 to 1, 20 to 1 bar those. Andy, I'll let you take this away.
Yeah, similar to the King George of the day. Just leave this race to Godolphin. They seem to have an uncanny knack of getting these horses a handicap for these 3-year-old races, and they've both got very strong form lines as well, particularly Honiton. I mean, Honiton's third behind Eldaroff. Couldn't have worked out any better. Yeah, absolutely. And there's been other horses further down the line that won out that Newcastle race. And then he clocked a massive time figure he won last time. He won by 9 lengths, but, he wasn't just visually good. He was good on the clock as well. So all of his form lines, including that run behind Secret Stake, stack up. Frankie's on. Hopefully his mind's not too scrambled come Saturday. Because he hasn't had the best of weeks, as we all know. I don't want to kick a man, but he's down. But he could do with riding a winner. Maybe Friday might be that injection of confidence that he needs. And the other one is the top one, Aldous Huxley, who won first time out, and then has been a bit unlucky in the 2 races he's run next time. But he's again posted some good numbers in defeat. That maiden that he was second to at Newmarket has been boosted by the 3rd, Cosmic Desert. And he's got Benoit de Sayet on board. I desperately want to keep on side anything that Benoit's riding in handicaps by and large. So, yeah, I don't think you go too far wrong with those. What are they, sort of 7, 8 to 1, 9 to 1-ish?
Aldous Huxley is 11 to 1, Honiton 8 to 1.
Right, there you go, 8s and 11s. Yeah, 2 each way bets on them. We'd be amazed if one of them's they're both out the frame.
You're getting 6 places with Sky Bet. Most firms 5 places, although I reckon a couple more will stick the neck out by the time we get to tomorrow morning. Johnny, a couple of Godolphin horses for Andy. Anything catch your eye?
I feel very sad because I'm tipping up the other Godolphin horse here. So
not as sad as George Bowie listening to this on his way to the race.
I know. So I probably have a saver on Sun King because he was a hot favourite at Navan the last day. He ran a little bit free. He's a horse that can be a bit slow out of the gates, but like he was a good 2-year-old. He ran behind Sissoko, was a very good horse, and he's only rated 89. He's Aidan O'Brien's only run the race, but I loved, just looking back on this today, I love the run of Falling Shadow at Newbury the last day. He's a horse that he's gorgeous pedigree. He looks like he's just improving because the first time he ran at Kempton in a back end 2-year-old maiden on the All Other, he was sent off 11-2, beaten 11 lengths. He then went to Wolverhampton, one was disqualified. So then he reappeared in May and absolutely bolted up. He was sent off an 11-8 favourite, and the third, who was beaten 8.5 lengths, then went on in a handicap the next day, probably benefiting from soft ground double cherry, but was running off 78, backed into favourite, hacked up, now rated 87. Falling Shadow demolished that horse at Newbury. He's actually been gelded since, which is interesting. So we'll see how that works out. But Charlie Appleby's horse, I think he's just a bit of a blank canvas. I mean, he could improve plenty again. Obviously, stepping up and trip, that won't be a problem. Love the way he did it at Newbury. And I think that's probably solid form. The horse in second was pretty well fancied as well. He just laughed at them. So I'm deeply depressed that Andy's gone with the other two.
13-2, Falling Shadow, best price with 888 Sports. It was 11-2 elsewhere, the one for Johnny. So all three of those Godolphin horses, well fancied at the top end.
One of them has to win. One of them has
to win. Surely we've covered a lot there. Yeah. There's a good time figure as well, by the way, Johnny. That Newbury race.
That's good to hear.
Very good, yeah.
On then to the final race of Royal Ascot 2022, the Queen Alexandra Stakes, the conditions race, and Trushan has been left in. Is 11-8 at the moment. I think at the time of final declarations, there was a bit of rain forecast for Saturday. There is no longer any rain forecast for Saturday as it stands, or if there is, not very much at all. So this market and this conversation could age pretty quickly. Trushan, of course, taken out of the Gold Cup on account of the ground. Wordsworth 130. Falcon 8, 6-1, Nate the Great 11-1, Urban Artist 14s, Stratum 16s, Calling the Wind 16-1, 22-1 Bar. And in this conversation, do we assume that Trushan won't be taking up this engagement?
Yeah, I'll be short price backer that he won't run. Just too risky, isn't it? That they obviously have got other targets further down the line. They don't need to risk him on ground that he's unsuitable. That if they're not going to run him in the Gold Cup, why would they run him in this, in a less prestigious event? They've obviously put him in like they did in the Gold Cup, just in case they ever do a thunderstorm or a couple of rogue showers. They look foolish when they're taking it out if that occurred. But the forecast isn't looking that favourable. Certainly not down in the south anyway, in London. It might rain sort of Saturday night into Sunday, but they're not going to get any by race time. And by the time that Alan King walks the course, well, he's not going to leave till 4:00 in the afternoon and keep everyone guessing. All the work and the preparation will be done by lunchtime, and he'll walk the track and he'll look up in the skies and he'll just think, nah, it's no point. So he'll definitely be a non-runner. The one I'm going to back here, I'm going to put some each way multiples on for the next few days, combinations, etc. My banker for the whole bet without putting in another horse in the race would be Calling the Wind. He's currently 14-1, but I'm quite happy to take 14-1 with a Rule 4 and as a bit of a hit, because I think he'll go off 5-1, something like that, 4-5-1 when the markets reform. He was.
You love that new market form behind Buzz and Burning Victory.
Well, I mean, look how well Burning Victory ran yesterday. I mean, she gave me a hell of a run. It's just a sensational piece of handicap form, and this fella has had, I would say, by Richard Hughes standards, he's basically messed around with this horse first. I'm gonna have to choose my words carefully, but I think he's messed around with this horse deliberately, with a view to coming here again to hopefully go one place better.
I think Andy's saying he's been running them over the wrong trip of 1.5 miles.
Well, yeah, it does look that way. I mean, he's run well, to be fair. He ran well at Doncaster the first day, and he wasn't disgraced next time out, but he certainly wasn't overly hard on him, Pat Dobbs. I just felt as though that was another part of the process when they ran him. But the ground would have been a bit soft for him here last year. But he came there. I put him up on my column that day. I think I put him up at 50-1, and all the way through the race, I thought, this is going to win. This is absolutely running over the field. I think I laid it back at odds on him running. And then Stratum just outstayed him on the ground, because Stratum is ostensibly a good stamina-based horse. But the better ground, when he went to Goodwood next time out, he was a different horse. He actually travelled well, but he got the job done on ground that he could quicken on. He's going to get his fast ground this time. It'll be a different story. He will still be on the bridle, this horse, 2 out. I guarantee you. Nothing will get him off the bridle over this trip. I would say he's probably the best bet on the card at the prices. As it stands at the moment, like I say, take your all full hit if you're still listening to this. Because Trushan will come out. You'll get like a, 30p deduction, 30, 40p deduction, but it'll still work out. You'll be on the right side of the value because that once, like I say, once the market's reformed, that's out. Bookmakers will nick a few points here, there, and everywhere as well once they know Trushan's out. As I said, I think this horse has got a decent chance of being at least second favourite behind Wordsworth, and I'm not a mad fan of Wordsworth either, to be fair. So yeah, I think this is a great bet. Calling the wind.
Calling the wind, 16-1 best price for 888 Sport, 14-1 with most firms. That's 4 places. I assume if Trushan comes out, they will keep those 4 places, but I can't guarantee that. But we will see. But yeah, worth taking ASAP, as Andy says.
You won't need 4 places with this fella.
Ooh, there we go, Johnny. Follow that up with the final race of Royal Ascot.
It is weird that he's that big of a price, considering like everything points to the fact David Egan, the nephew of Richard Hughes, he's back on again. He rode him the race last year. It's fairly odd that he's been put in at this price. Obviously, you're going to take your Rule 4, but he must have a massive each way chance. I'm going to go against Andy with Wordsworth. I think they've prepped him for this race. He's run twice at Ascot. He's run very well. I don't think stand will be a problem. He's only run over 2 miles so far with his brother to Kew Gardens. And like, obviously, he's probably, I think, my race of the year, or my race of the festival rather, was the Gold Cup. I thought it was an unbelievable watch in terms of jockeyship, and I think we've probably seen the Yates of the future. I've said this before after a few Gold Cups where it hasn't materialised, but I think we may have seen the Yates of the future in Kyprios, because we don't have that many obvious stayers coming up and coming, and he just looks like he's idling in front and so on. But Wordsworth might develop into a decent stayer. He's another Galileo bred 4-year-old, and I'd put up him as a saver, but I couldn't agree more with Andy. I mean, everything points to Calling the Wind being prepped for this race, and has rock solid form, and surely isn't a 60-1 chance.
There we have it. The final tip of the Royal Ascot meeting there, 16-1 pretty much with all firms as well. Thank you very much to both Johnny and to Andy for sharing their thoughts over the whole of Royal Ascot. Hopefully today and on Saturday as well, Andy, the ball goes in the back of the net rather than cannoning off the woodwork, but we'll see how it goes. Do download the oddschecker app now for the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and Andy's tips, as well as plenty of other tips across sport, straight to the app every morning of racing. Do subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel. We'll have plenty more of these oddschecker betting shows over the summer and then throughout the year as well. And you can subscribe to the podcast as well if you don't have time to watch us chatting away in our offices or front rooms or wherever we are as well. So thank you to the guys. Hopefully the brilliant week of racing continues at Royal Ascot. Sympathies to those on course today in that heat. Hopefully everyone makes it home safe and doesn't drink too much, but I wouldn't want to be on that train leaving Ascot Station back into Waterloo at 6:30 this afternoon, I can promise you that. But yeah, hopefully a couple of winners in today, certainly some value, as is always the case, and please ensure that you are gambling responsibly.